Welcome back to the Blue Curtain Project, my personal challenge to think more critically about the media I consume, no matter how silly. Today, we dare to ask, was Madame Web secretly brilliant? No. Okay, come back. Obviously, we're not done. Listen, was Madame Web the perfect film? No. Was it a good film, though? Also, no, but enough people have already talked about that. So today, let's peel away all the bad ADR and weird dialogue and totally not Pepsi ads to look at what it may have been trying to say. Now, something I do genuinely like about this film is how well it puts the audience into a similar headspace as the main character, specifically in regards to her powers. Because when done right, superpowers are more than just impressive feats you can yell about online. Don't get mad, I'm a professional yell about onliner. They're key defining characteristics that reflect not only a character's personality, but also their unique struggle. And if you couldn't tell from the incredibly subtle name Cassandra, this is a story about a woman who can see the future, which basically means it's dramatic irony, the movie. That's a term for when the audience knows more than the characters. It's like how in a horror movie, we know where the killer is hiding, but the characters don't. Actually, it's exactly like that, because that is what both Cassie and Ezekiel's vision showed us. But I'm not even just talking about the narrative. The structure of the film is built around the audience knowing the future. That's why it's a period piece. And yes, films set in 2003 are period pieces. It was 20 years ago. And if that upsets you, then you probably also won't love the fact that this movie shows Peter Parker being born. Which means that Spider-Man is younger than I am, which does not depress me or break my spirit at all. Anyways, why is Peter born in this movie? Good question, because he doesn't actually do anything that couldn't have been done by any other baby. Like, don't get me wrong, it is important that Cassandra knows somebody who's having a child, because that's how we get awkward situations like the baby shower, where she's forced to reflect on her relationship with her own mother.
Just have at least one fond memory of your mother.
Well, my mother actually died in childbirth.
And it's how we get the elevated drama of the baby coming just as the villain closes in.
Baby is not waiting, he's coming now.
Like here in the dining room?
But why is it specifically Peter? Is it just a transparent attempt at getting butts in seats by mentioning Spider-Man? Probably, yeah. But it's also, again, dramatic irony, because we know how important this child is, even if the characters do not. And you can tell the film likes that idea because they keep milking it.
Ben?
The name is...
Get it? Because you know what his name's gonna be. It's Peter. But to be fair, that's not the only way the film plays with audience expectations. Cassie herself is famously an old, blind, paraplegic woman, being played by just regular old Dakota Johnson, which means the audience knows some sort of inevitable tragedy is on its way. But hey, you say, adding an addendum to your long comment about how I oversimplify dramatic irony, that only works if the audience is a bunch of nerds. I've never heard of this woman and definitely didn't know the future of anything, which totally fair. But I bet you knew who Uncle Ben was, right? The film definitely thinks you do, because they milk that one almost as much as the Peter thing.
Kinda met someone.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What's this one's name?
Now, interestingly, Ben's case is a bit different because while tragic, it's also kinda necessary. Like, there's no Spider-Man if Uncle Ben doesn't die. An idea explored in the much better Across the Spider-Verse, but you know, also definitely in conversation here, because this film seems to be interested in using clairvoyance to ask the age-old question, do the ends justify the means? Cassie's big struggle, the thing that haunts her throughout the narrative, is her resentment towards her mother. Specifically, she views her willingly endangering her life while pregnant as akin to abandonment.
She chose to be like way deep in the Amazon for the last month of her pregnancy.
I don't understand why she risked my life to come here.
As far as she's concerned, her mother went to the Amazon to study spiders out of a selfish desire to continue her own investigation without caring how it would affect her unborn child.
Hope the spiders were worth it, Mom.
But of course, the big twist is that that isn't true. Yes, her mother acted rashly, but only because Cassie was going to be born with a rare disease. The same rare disease that she actually was born with in the comics that left her blind and paraplegic. Paying off the discrepancy we talked about earlier, just for the nerds. This reframes her actions from representing abandonment to sacrifice. She gave everything to save her child.
You did it. You did it. I never knew I was sick. The spider venom did have healing properties. I'm so sorry I spent so long being mad at you.
I always thought my mom didn't care about me.
Sometimes you must sacrifice yourself for those you love.
Sometimes you must sacrifice for those you love. This is probably the work's main theme. Whether it's Cassie's mom in the rainforest, or all the sob stories they give the young girls who are going to grow up to be Spider Women, or even Uncle Ben motivating Spider-Man himself, struggle and loss are a part of life. They're inevitable, but as tragic as they are, they can lead to something better down the road. Sort of uplifting, sort of depressing, but overall easy to understand. That is, unless your name is Ezekiel Sims, he's the one who was, you know,
With my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died.
and after killing Cassie's mother, faces literally no consequences. Actually, he seems to have a very nice life. He's got a great house, away with the ladies, and technology that should not exist for at least another few decades.
This is what they look like in your visions, as well as you can recollect.
Their faces have been taunting me for years.
But he is completely preoccupied by the fact that one day he's going to die. A fact that is, and just let me check this real quick, yep, true for everyone in existence. But this is sort of the sinister side of the dramatic irony beat, right? He doesn't just know where the killer's hiding. He knows who they are and when they're coming. So he decides to take them out before they can hide in the first place, like a lazier Terminator. Unfortunately, like Terminator, it's not that easy because, again, it's inevitable. The tragedy of the character is that had he just accepted it and come to terms with his eventual sacrifice, he would have lived a lot longer and would have been able to enjoy the time he had. In a way, he's the foil for Cassie's mom, who also died trying to change fate, but in her case, it was selfless, and in his, it's selfish. Now, is literally all of that a reach? Yeah, but I do believe that some version of this idea was the intent. It's just how well it was communicated is up for interpretation. And part of the reason I think it was confusing is we're missing the person who accepts their fate regardless of the consequences. Now, it could be argued that person is Cassie because she becomes more like the comic version in the end. But one, they never suggest that she knows that's going to happen. And two, I think it'd be more powerful if it served as another foil to the mom and Ezekiel and resulted in death, which is a long way to say that Ben should have known he was gonna get shot. I believe this so strongly because when I first watched it, I thought that's what they were doing. Not only do they reference it constantly.
What, you've never been shot at in Queens?
But watch this scene again and tell me it is not a man reckoning with the fact that he is willingly going on the path that he knows ends in his own demise.
Kinda met someone.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
What's this one's name?
See what I mean? They trail off in everything. It's very ominous. Now, does it also fundamentally destroy a key element of Spider-Man lore? Yeah, but why start caring now? But in all seriousness, it should be said they do try something similar to this with Ben's sister-in-law, Mary, where at the end, Madam Web does seem to know that she's a goner and makes a fun little joke about it.
And he's loving being an uncle.
Yeah, all the fun and none of the responsibility.
That's what he thinks.
But that's still not Mary making an active choice, so I don't think it accomplishes the same thing. But if it was Ben who knew his own fate for whatever ham-fisted reason they could think of, and he still chose to marry May to help his brother's wife to make sure that Peter is delivered safely into this world, it would add a level of depth not just to his actions in this film, but to those we know are coming down the line, because it would mean he prioritized his life over his death. That he took full advantage of the 20 years Ezekiel could have had, not just because it'd one day end up in Spider-Man, but because he would get to experience all of the beautiful moments between the tragedies. The means justify the ends. Had they included any aspect of this, even more just ominous scenes like this one, I think more people would have left with an idea of the film's message. Now, was it the message the film was shooting for? I have no idea. Would it have made it a good movie? Probably not. But just because something is bad doesn't mean that's all that's worth talking about. Okay, now we're done.